Chapter 21, Font and Text Decoration. So we have learned some things we can do with cascading style sheets. We focused on just the different parts of cascading style sheets, and then we looked at, we can create boxes with backgrounds and borders and change the font size of those things, or, or I wouldn't say font size, the width of the borders and stuff like that. But of course, and we've also been looking at, uh, font color. The color of the font, like you see here, is red. And then we've already covered where you can change the background of something, which is basically creating a box. So we've already covered those kinds of things, but there's other things that you can do. There's just so many things, and you really just need to, venture into that W3 Schools site so you can see all the different options that you can do with cascading style sheets with font and text and boxes and so many other things. But we're going to cover just a few of them here. So, for example, and there was that chapter where we covered tags to avoid. Well, italic was one of them, or there was a single tag to open and close with an I to make it italic. But this is the better way of doing it because uh, you can actually specify at the very top or in an external style sheet what should be italic instead of going throughout the entire page and changing it like a million times to a million different pages. So here's font style italic, and you can also change the font size. So heading 1, of course, that makes it bigger automatically, but then you can also change the font size by using this line. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I'm going to do it anyway. PX means pixels, just like there are pixels on your screen so that you're viewing this page. There's many different pixels going across and down your screen, and that's what makes the image of what you're looking at. So the font size is just 20 pixels tall. Okay, then here is another thing that you can do. Font variant is small caps, and small caps is basically capitalizing all of your text while simultaneously shrinking. So you can see that everything here is capitalized, but only the very first letter is actually it's just bigger than the rest. So, but all of them are capitalized, even though, the text down here is not capitalized. Okay, and then we have text styles. So if you notice what we've been looking at here, it actually says font, like font variant, font size, font style. Also notice that there's, things that you can change that start with text, like text indent or text align. And on the top here in this paragraph, it basically explains, well, how can you remember exactly, oops, how can you explain what, which one you want to choose? Do you want to choose font or do you want to choose text? Well, this example here, or this text here, it basically says, well, think about whether you want to change the way the letters appear. If you do want to change the way they appear, then you want font. If you don't, like let's say you want to format it, then you'd be using text. So in this situation, or if we look up here, font, that's the way it looks. But if you're basically like formatting it, you would use text. So formatting would be an indentation or justifying a paragraph. So in this example here, We have a style for paragraph, and it's actually, telling it to indent at the beginning here, and it wants it to justify. So basically, when you justify text, at the very, it basically changes the spacing of the text so that the left and the right margins are aligned. It's not, jagged at the end like this on the right hand side. So that is a justify way. And also you see here that it's indented. So even though your code doesn't have the paragraph indented or it's not justified, it is when you actually assign this cascading style sheets to it. And then again, there's just so many more effects that you can do, like crossing out text, underlining it, or specifying that it should be not decorated. So here's that example here. So I know it's kind of squished here, but this basically says text decoration, and then you want line through, and that will give you this output to the right here. Text we want crossed out. If you do text decoration underline, then it'll underline whatever text you have. But also know that you can remove a decoration, and that would be like this would be a link here. And if you see on the code here, it actually has ahref underline. So that is a link, although it's incomplete. It is a link, and typically links have an underline, but you can actually make it so that it doesn't. But of course, that I wouldn't recommend because people expect links to have underlines, and if they see text without the underline, they may not know that it should be clicked on. Of course, it'll still be blue or whatever color you assign as links, but it's just something to be aware of. And then, of course, if you underline something, they might think that it is a link. Okay, so anchors are basically the A tags, like ahref. So those are called anchors. And we covered last time that we can actually change things about the links. And also remember too is that you can specify the different versions of links. So remember there's, just a regular link. There's if you visited it, then there's hover, and then if the link is active. Those are the different options. And I think we only covered 3 of them. But yeah, so these are some of the different versions of it. We've already looked at changing the color of it, basically like the font color, but just know that you can also change the background color. And there's so many more things you can do. Like last time we actually did bold, but you can make it italic or you can make it bigger, if you're hovering over it. So many different options there. And just an FYI, and let me go ahead and highlight it. In the assignment, you will need to create a link. So just in case you don't remember what a link looks like, here's an example here. Of course, you can look back at your previous assignments, but here it is right here. It's just ahref, and you don't need the target here. Yeah, you don't need the target here because inside the quotes here for href, that would be the website or where the link's going to go. So in our situation, we've been doing email, so it'll be mail to and then your email. But know that you can actually create a link like www.yahoo.com and it'll link somewhere. So actually, I should really show you how to do that just to make sure. Okay, so let's do a page. All right, I'm going to use this page here. So here's a good example already here. This is the link tag where you do so you would have something like mail to and then an email address. Mail to email address, and then whatever you click on, and then the /A at the end. So don't forget all of those parts there. So that's an actual link, but know that you can create other links as well. Just make some space so that it's obvious. So if you do href, and I know that we've done this before. Well, actually, it was part of extra credit, but now you should know how to do this, or you should be doing this in the assignment. So here is the basic code for an anchor or a link. But let's say you wanted to create a link to, well, let's say, what would be a popular site that you all may go to? I don't even know. Let's see. Well, first of all, I want to go ahead and open the page in the browser. And this is the page that I'm working on here. So I'm going to have 1/2 screen of the page, or the output, and then 1/2 of the code. So let's just do the college page. So if we just do alamo.edu, we can just do, if you click up here, you can just copy the link and then put it inside the quotes, and then save, and then refresh. And where is our link? So let me just make sure I actually have the right file open, and I do. And if I ever am, oh, hello. Well, let me just go ahead and continue. If I ever am unsure if I have the actual page open, what I like to do is change some of the text just to verify. So I have this H1 and it has pop quiz. So let me go ahead and change some text and then refresh so I can check, yes, it is the same file. Because there's so many, it's just so easy to be looking at the wrong file in the browser. So I typically do that just in case, because, it's at first view, it's like, well, it doesn't seem to be anything wrong. But the thing that's wrong here is that it doesn't have anything to click on, so you don't see anything. So let me go ahead and put some text there, click to email, or no, actually I should put something appropriate. So let's do, we'll save and refresh. So now we have a link down here. It says go to SEC page. You click the link and there's the link somewhere. So that is the way to create a link to a certain website. Now, actually, part of the assignment is also creating, not only do you need to create a link to a website, or at least 2 websites, but you also need to find an image. So, well, this is what I typically think about searching for, sorry. But here's images. I find an image of that I want to use. Then you can just right click and then copy image address. And that'll give you where the address or the actual image is. And then you can use that in your code. So let me go ahead and do the image code. So images are img src equals, then you would put the web page that you found it. And I know it's long, but that's part of the search. Actually, let me get it from the actual page. Sometimes the search gives you drama. So I'm just using Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and closing up the image. Oh, and with images, it's just one tag. You don't need a close for images. So now if I save and refresh, now we have the image of the cat. And of course it is way too big. So then we just add the width. And always know that if you do the width and the height, not all images are the same width and height. So if you just put 100 on both, you might actually be squishing the image. Yeah, so it's kind of squished there, but it still works. So I'm not going to be too, I'm not going to take off points just because your image is squished. Okay, so very important for the assignment for this week is that you need to have links to some pages, and then you need an image. So just be sure you know how to do those things. Anyway, back to the textbook. Okay, so again, that is a sample of a link. Remember, you don't need this target here. You just put the website in between here and then whatever you want to click on there. Okay, now the last part of this chapter is that we have to be concerned, or we have to be aware of having our pages accessible, really, or where people don't have issues viewing our web pages. So for a good way of saying it is that we want our users to have a pleasant user experience. So when people go to our websites, not only should the colors be, easy on the eyes, but, well, it has to look professional or people won't be trusting your site. So if you have a red background and green text, that is considered the worst color combination. But in addition, if somebody goes to your website and sees that color combination, that is not a professional site. So always keep that in mind. So there's a few things listed here in the text that are things that you should consider. And first would be text size. Basically, because as you probably know, when you're looking at a web page, you can actually change this text size. So I have this web page here that I created, but people can actually make it so that they can increase. And basically, I'm not doing it the same way. You can just do zoom and then increase like that. So you want to consider the fact that people may be doing that when they're viewing your page, and just make sure it looks okay when you increase or decrease like this. And you only have to do it a few times, 3 times bigger or smaller. That's the general rule of thumb. And also know that you can just use Control plus and Control minus to do it. Just like you do copy and paste with your keyboard, you can actually increase and decrease your the view of the web page or the font size. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm doing Control plus, and now I'm doing Control minus. So I didn't have to go into the zoom there. Okay, another thing you want to be concerned with is having a text-only version of the page. And that would benefit if you may have experienced where you may need to print a web page and you tried to print, but it looked terrible. Or maybe something else that you wanted to do where you only wanted the text, you didn't want a bunch of pictures. Or maybe you've even gone to websites and there are articles available that actually have a print option. Well, that's very beneficial because also when you think about printing, you don't want to print all of the graphics because that will use a lot of ink, and there's typically no purpose of keeping those images. So by using responsive design, you can actually say, okay, well, if somebody wants to print this page, don't print the images and all these kinds of changes. So just be aware of that. The next thing you want to think about is contrast, or the contrast between the different layers, like a link and a background. It may be difficult for some users to distinguish and read, so just be sure that it's easy for them. So you want to view your site with different brightness and contrast settings. So just to make sure and you'd be doing that with your monitor. So just be sure it looks okay with different contrast settings. All right, and color combinations also play a role because there are some forms of color blindness where it might be hard to read. So in this example down here, there's a red-green form of color blindness where, as you see down here, they see this color instead of red or this color instead of green. So if you're using colors to distinguish something, or maybe even assign buttons, or like you're going to say click the green button for something, well, they're not seeing green. So just be sure to be aware that um, that this is a consideration here. And if you want, like the book says, that this is only a few examples. There's so many more things that you can do to make your site a pleasant user experience, or not to prevent somebody from doing something that you want them to do. uh, you can go to this website here is at W3C. They have a full list of items that you can consider. Okay, so yeah, lots of information here. A very good site too. I haven't mentioned this site here, but this is a very important site for web developers here. It's an organization that works together for websites, to create effective websites. Okay, and also know that you can use that website to scan your pages to make sure that um, that you've created your pages with accessibility and good practices. So you can actually get a stamp on your page to say that you've done the effort to make a good page. So that's it for chapter 21.